ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। So 6 Indian systems of philosophy, that's what we are going to discuss for a few days. And system of philosophy, the word system is actually a very loose word. We call it as a darshan. Shat darshanani, 6 darshanas. Darshanam word has been formed from the root drish, to see. So darshanam is one. Well, it's a philosophy which will see into the truth. Truth of what? That we will see. So this is Shat Darshanani. And all these 6 systems of this philosophy, Indian philosophy, are basically drawn inspiration from Veda. So we call also as a Vedic Darshanani. All of them are referred to as Vedic systems. And in absence of the Veda, these systems could not have arisen. And there is so much of space, of course, in this Vedic tradition that, all the darshanas basically could emerge, each with its own identity. At the same time, all the system reveal a certain common aspect also. And all the darshanas are concerned basically with one important problem. That is the common ground for all. So it may appear that each darshana has its own philosophy, etc., and that there is no common thing, but that is not the case. All are concerned with one thing, and that is individual, jiva. That's a common ground. What is the problem of jiva? To look into the truth of the problem of a jiva and to give a solution, to give him a freedom from the problem. That is the common ground for all the philosophies. So, when we say this, the problem by saying that, the basic problem is not the jiva in isolation. An individual who is living in isolation and facing problem, that's not the criteria they take into. Basically, the jiva who is transacting in the world, jiva who is doing a vyavhara in the world, definitely faces all bondages. Varieties of the bondages are there. Social bondage, political bondage, economic bondage. Varieties of the bondages are there. And also the spiritual bondage, that's what we are concerned with. So anyway, so basically they don't address a problem of a jiva in isolation. They address the problem of a jiva who is transacting in the world, basically. So it will be more appropriate to say that all systems are concerned with the jiva in the world, basically. And so this hyphenation, etc., the jiva in the world, etc., is intended to show this relationship that exists between a individual and the world at large. So all Shat Darshanas not just study the world, not just jiva, but they study jiva and world together. And so jiva in the world, jiva is a part of the world. Well, they think like that, and they try to address that. And what is this jiva? Jiva is jivati iti jiva. Jiva is a living being. Any living being is called jiva. It has a life, and living, of course, in the world. So any system looks at this problem of a jiva, who is a part of the world. And their aim is, how can this jiva get, say, moksha, freedom? Here, spiritual freedom. Because there are other freedoms also, economic freedom, social freedom, political freedom, but that is not the focus of any darshana basically. And so every darshana wants to give this jiva, give a solution to the jiva, ultimately for ultimate freedom, moksha. So in that way, all 6 darshanas, even Nastika darshanas also, well, they are called Moksha Shastra. It's a treatise which helps to basically attain moksha for the jiva. So Nyaya Shastra is a Moksha Shastra, and Yoga Shastra is a Moksha Shastra, and Sankhya and Vaisheshika and Nayayikas, Vedanta Shastra is a Moksha Shastra, Mimamsakas also, basically Karma Mimamsa, etc. also is a Moksha Shastra. So so if jiva can, gain one's own, knows one's own Swarupa, well, he can gain the moksha, etc. And he can, once he attains that Swarupa, well, it is the end of the problem. That's what everyone thinks. Anyway, and here, now here this Indian philosophy, that's the Eastern philosophy we call, and the Western philosophy. Now, there is a general impression that the philosophy exists only in the West. That's a that's a problem, actually. In East, there is no philosophy. There is a religion, there is a theology, and there is a mysticism, etc. And so in India, all over in a philosophical circle, this is a impression that to use a term called Eastern philosophy is a contradiction in itself. Like global security is a contradiction. There is a security for one country from another. There is a global security. Is a contradiction in the term itself. Same way, this Eastern philosophy is a contradiction in term. And so there is only in East basically all this theology, mysticism, religion, etc. exist. And even Jainism and Buddhism also they don't consider as a philosophy. So they say it is not all philosophy. There is no vichara, inquiry, reasoning, etc. in this so-called Eastern philosophy. And this reasoning and etc., this analysis, inquiry, all this is our privilege. That's what Western philosophers think. And not only that, in India also in academic circle where they teach philosophy, etc., well, they also give a lowest priority to Eastern philosophy. And they give a more weightage to the Western philosophers, Aristotle and Plato and Russell, etc. all. So they like to quote all the time this Western philosophers. They like to study. They like to, give more weightage to the Western philosophy. They say Indian philosophy is basically a old-fashioned subject. And at the best, if really one wants to study Indian philosophy, or Eastern philosophy, Nyaya Darshanam is okay. Little bit logic, reasoning, etc. is there, but other things are all not just, it doesn't fit into call as a philosophy. Anyway, so all this, because the rigorous inquiry regarding this problems of the jiva and etc., that is not there in Eastern philosophy. That's what their impression is. It's actually a partial vision, because in West also you will find a great theologians, and you find a great mystic people also, And there is a religion also here, but this kind of a view they held. So so basically, so that is the problem in the Western circle. They don't know this. The Veda has, and our other systems of philosophy have already discussed what they are discussing now. The problems of the jiva basically in the world. We have elaborately discussed this, and every darshana developed in India basically is, of course, is a result of a careful philosophical investigation. And in that, of course, some systems have drawn inspiration from the Vedic text, and then reasoning they formulate as per the Vedic text, and some systems basically draw conclusions exclusively, without taking Veda into consideration, even though it's a Astika system. For the lip service, they may say, well, that we consult Veda, etc., and we also formulate our ideas of our philosophy, etc., based on Veda, etc., but they don't, especially Naiyayikas and Vaisheshikas. Anyway, so this is just a background. Now, there are three types of inquiries done in by this philosophy. One is called a Pramana Vichara. Second is a Prameya Vichara, and third is a Prayojana Vichara. Vichara, you can understand inquiry, analysis. Analysis of the Pramana, analysis of the means of knowledge, analysis of the Prameya, analysis of the object of knowledge, and analysis of the purpose. What is the purpose? Or what is the pursuit basically? So in this Prayojana Vichara, etc., that is thoroughly analyzed in Indian philosophy. And if this Pramana Vichara and Prameya Vichara, both the Vicharas are there for the sake of Prayojana Vichara only. So that's how in Indian tradition, philosophical tradition, Pramana Vichara and Prameya Vichara are ancillary basically. They subsidiary to the Prayojana Vichara. And without Prayojana Vichara, this Pramana Vichara, Prameya Vichara is useless. So gaining knowledge regarding, the means of knowledge, thorough analysis of the means of knowledge, thorough analysis of this objective world, etc., which is object of knowledge, is useless. What is the use of this gaining this knowledge? Unless a Prayojana is clear. And therefore, Prayojana means Purushartha, means basically Purushartha Vichara is done in Indian system of philosophy thoroughly. And we say 4 types of Purushartha. In that, the ultimate Purushartha is a moksha. But the Purushartha Vichara, the analysis of Purushartha begins with the Dharma Purushartha. Dharma is an independent Purushartha. Artha Kama comes later, and ultimately all the 3 are meant for moksha, etc. And so the Prayojana Vichara, the analysis of this Purushartha in Indian philosophical system, it has been done very well. And for the sake of that, then there is a Pramana Vichara also and Prameya Vichara also. So this is how, this is a general idea about regarding Indian system of philosophy. And we say this darshana of the philosophies, the systems of philosophy are of 2 types in general. One is called Astika system of philosophy, other is a Nastika system of philosophy. In Indian philosophy, we both have both the types of philosophies, right? Both the systems of philosophy. Certain systems of philosophy are Nastika and certain are Astikas. Astika means Vedic systems or orthodox. Nowadays, they don't use this orthodox systems of philosophy, etc. If they use orthodox for Astikas, they will have to use a heterodox for a Nastika system, which they are not happy with to use. Jainism is basically a heterodox system of philosophy. That doesn't, they don't like. Or Buddhism is a heterodox system of philosophy. They won't like it, this kind of word. And therefore, they have dropped this word, orthodox. So we have in Indian systems of philosophy, we have 2 types of philosophy. Vedic, non-Vedic. That's all. Vedic systems of philosophy and with non-Vedic system of philosophy. And you can understand Astika, Nastika only for that purpose I told you. And Astika has been translated as a Vedic, means they take Veda as a source book. Their origination is, or they consult Veda for deriving all the principles given principles in their own philosophy. They consider Veda, they give a pramanyam to the Veda, priority to the Veda. So those are called astikas. Vedaha pramanam asti iti vadati saha astikah. Vedaha pramanam asti. Veda is a source of ultimately to derive a philosophy, to understand the nature of jiva, to understand the bondage, to understand the freedom, to understand the nature of world, to understand the interaction between jiva and the world, individual and the world. All this, for that purpose, they basically look into the Veda. They are astikas. And those who don't look into the Veda at all, they don't give a pramanyam, priority to the Veda for arriving at all these things, well, they are Nastika systems of philosophy. In a Astika systems of philosophy, so we should not go by, who believes in Ishvara. Astika means who believes in Ishvara, well, no. Otherwise, Sankhya we will have to drop. Sankhya is an Astika system of philosophy, but yet they don't believe in Ishvara. So there are six, in Indian philosophical system, we have 6 Nastika systems, non-Vedic systems, 6 Vedic systems. And here, of course, we are going to discuss much on Astika systems of philosophy, but I will refer here and there Buddhist also, because Mandukya Karika Bhashyam is full of this Buddhist school of philosophy. I mean, Bhashyakara has refuted there. Anyway, so these 6 systems of philosophy, Astika systems of philosophy, are this: Vaisheshika, second is a Nyaya, third is a Sankhya, fourth is a Yoga, fifth is a Mimamsa, and sixth is a Vedanta. So all these traditions, are called Vedic systems. Mimamsa also, definitely they don't believe in Ishvara. They believe in Devatas. Yeah. And Devatas in form of mantra. Mantra which are there in the Veda, which they definitely, through mantras only they do a avahanam of the Devatas, etc. They feel that this mantra itself, Devata has, they are in the form of these Devatas, in the form of mantras. They don't believe in Ishvara. Mimamsakas also, they don't believe in Ishvara as creator and sustainer and resolver, etc. of this creation, etc. They don't believe. Anyway, but still, they give a lot of weightage to Veda, and therefore the whole in fact, Mimamsakas, basically for them the karma only is a purport of the Veda, and so it's a way, so they are Vedikas only, Astika only, and Shankaracharya chose to challenge this Mimamsaka, and yet chose to be Vedika also. He refuted Vedikas and he calls himself Shankaracharya. And especially I am remembering because yesterday itself, we have celebrated this Shankaracharya Jayanti. So it's a big thing to refute Vedikas, and yet to call himself as a Vedika is something very, very, very big thing. Anyway, so this challenge was to the Mimamsaka was of a much more magnitude. And anyway, so we'll discuss that partly. Anyway, so these 6 systems of philosophy are Vedic systems of philosophy, Astikas. Now in that they are often clubbed together because they have something in common. And so Vaisheshika and Naiyayikas are combined together. So these 2 systems are combined. Sankhya and Yoga are combined, and Mimamsa and Vedanta are combined. So we sometimes call Mimamsa as a Purva Mimamsa and Vedanta as a Uttara Mimamsa. Or sometimes they call Karma Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa or Mimamsaka. Mimamsas are they are called Karma Mimamsa and Jnana Mimamsa. Karma Mimamsa we can understand, they think the Veda's purport, the Veda's essence. Veda wants to convey, the main subject matter of the Veda, the Tatparya of the Veda is a karma. And so, and one can gain moksha through karma, etc. So, who believes so, they are all Mimamsakas. So, Karma Mimamsa. And Vedanta is called Uttar Mimamsa or a Jnana Mimamsa. And in this Jnana Mimamsa or Vedanta, all these people come. Vishishta Dvaitin, then Shuddha Dvaitins, Kevala Dvaitins, all these people, Dvaita Dvaitins, all come in this Jnana Mimamsa. Anyway, and Shankaracharya ji, says for Jnana Mimamsa, for or Uttar Mimamsa or Vedanta, he uses the word Shariraka Mimamsa also. And Shariraka Mimamsa means basically Sharira, Sharire Bhavaha iti Shariraha. What obtains in this body is this Jiva, the self, is basically, and Shariraha eva Sharirakaha. So Shariraka Mimamsa means study of the Jiva in this world. So that is a Jnana Mimamsa, etc. So, okay, but how do you define this Jiva? One who does 3 types of activities is called Jiva. He is a subject, basically, he is a subject of knowledge. One activity he does is of knowing. He is an agent of action also, naturally. He performs various actions. And he is an experiencer of the result of action. So one who does 3 types of activity of knowing, activity of performing action, and activity of experiencing the result of an action is called Jiva. And so long that self who obtains in this body is consider himself, herself as these 3, Pramata, Karta, Bhokta, etc., then he will have a bondage also. And so in order to be free from the bondage, he has to not to identify with these 3 things, Kartrutvam, Bhoktrutvam, Pramatrutvam, etc. Anyway, so this is regarding Jiva. And as I told you, this we are clubbing together, out of the 6 systems, we make it into 3 by clubbing together, especially Nayayika and Vaiseshika. They have some kind of a partnership. Sankhyas and Yogas have some kind of a partnership. And Mimamsakas and Vedantins have some kind of a partnership. Even though they don't like us as a partner. Mimamsaka just hate Vedantins. They just hate. They can't stand even. Because we are the one who refute karmas. And their whole building is on karma. And we refute within 2 seconds that karma cannot give moksha. And therefore they hate us. But still we make them as our partners. And Acharya, very well. Bhashya, you must have seen, come across, various things in Bhashyam. In Bhagavad Gita, Bhashyam and elsewhere also. This Shankaracharya ji challenge all the time this Mimamsakas. This Karma Jnana Samuchaya, etc. He always refutes. His favorite subject is Karma Jnana Samuchaya. And there is a reason. I will tell you why he refutes this particular thing. Especially in Gita Bhashyam, you find pages and pages. He goes on and on. I don't know who stops him. He goes on and on to refute this Karma Jnana Samuchaya. There is a reason for that. Anyway, so these 6 systems of Indian philosophy are Vedic systems, 6 non-Vedic systems of philosophy, Indian philosophy, 6 non-Vedic, Nastikas. So these 6 are Charvakas, then Jainas, then Bauddhas. As such, 3, only 3 systems. But then Bauddhas have 4 schools. And so that is Vaibhashika, Yogachara, Sautrantika and Madhyamika. So that way, these 4 schools of Buddhism, Jainism and Charvakas. So this we have 6 systems, non-Vedic systems, who do not accept Veda at all to find a solution for this Jiva in the world. They say, we can find a solution on our own, how to make the Jiva free from the bondage. We need not have to consult Veda. So these 6 are there. Anyway, now as I told you, these 4 major schools of Buddhism, actually there are 2 major traditions in Buddhism. One is called Hinayana, other is called Mahayana. Somehow they gave this name. Hinayana means, Yana means, vehicle. And so Hinayana means a lesser vehicle and Mahayana is a greater vehicle, whatever it may be. But then basically main 2 traditions are there in Buddhism, major traditions. And these 4 schools of Buddhism are divided in these 2 traditions. Now, this Hinayana is very, very popular in Sri Lanka, Burma and Thailand. And in this Mahayana tradition is very popular in Tibet, China. But what happened was, once it went to China, this Buddhism, Mahayana, the other tradition of the Buddhism, when it went to China, it underwent certain kind of a modification. And from China it went to Japan. By the time it has changed. And that is what is available now in Japan is this Zen Buddhism. So that is nothing but this Mahayana only. So it's a variety of Mahayana only. So now out of these four schools, as I told you, right, Vaibhashika, Yogachara, Sautrantika and Madhyamika, these four schools, very strong schools of Buddhism, are divided into these two traditions. And two schools are there in Hinayana, two schools are there in Mahayana. I will tell you, this Vaibhashika and Yogachara are there in Hinayana, and Madhyamika and basically Sautrantika, they are there in Vaibhashika and Sautrantika are there in Hinayana, and Yogachara and Madhyamika are there in Mahayana. Now I will give you a little difference between these two traditions, which has divided these four schools of Buddhism. What happened was, in philosophy, they have two very popular words, two terms they use all the time. One is called realism, and second is called idealism. So, what is realism and what is idealism? On the basis of that, you will understand these four schools. When an object exists independent of the knower, whether one knows the object external or one doesn't know the external object exists independently. It has its cause in the world itself, space, time, and the causality, whatever the cause may be. So that is called, so when a philosophical position holds such a view that an external object exists independent of the knower, well, that is called realism. A philosophical position which takes the existence of an external object independent of the knower is called realism. And now you can understand what is idealism. When you take the existence of the external object depending upon the knower, well, knower knows the object and therefore the external object exists. If such a philosophical view is there, philosophical position holds such a view, well, then that is called idealism. And therefore, it is something like our Jiva Srishti, It is something like a Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti means what? Well, the Srishti which exists in a Jiva, like Raga Dvesha, like pleasure and pain, Sukha Dukkha, etc. All Jiva Srishti. So basically, this all like that. This, don't think that way. So Jiva Srishti is this idealism. It's not. But it's like that. I'm giving you an example. So anyway, we are not going in detail into that. But so two important schools in Buddhism is based on the realism. And that is Sautrantika and Vaibhashika. And that is Hinayana. And that's a Hinayana tradition. And two schools of Buddhism based on idealism, and that is a tradition in the Buddhism called Mahayana. And these two traditions, who is based on idealism, is, you can understand very well, you are aware of it also. One is a Vijnanavada, that is called Yogachara. We call Kshanika Vijnanis also. And the third one, the second one is a Madhyamika, Shunyavadis, who do not believe in the existence of external world. Shunyavadis also don't believe. Kshanika Vijnana is also basically what exists is the internal world in form of this momentary consciousness, etc. There is no external world, etc. So you can understand that's idealism. Anyway, and Shankaracharya in his commentary in a Mandukya Karika examines all the four schools of Buddhism and criticizes also, refutes also. Very powerful systems of Buddhism. We just can't avoid. So far, if one wants to study Mandukya, one will have to be aware of all the four systems of Buddhism. Other systems of philosophy also will come somewhere else. We'll discuss that. So, very interesting point here in this Indian philosophical history is, we have a saying called history repeats itself. And that is, this well-known saying has really happened in a philosophical history also. The kind of development took place in Astika schools, Vedic schools of philosophy. Same kind of development took place in Nastika schools of philosophy called Buddhism also, which came later. Anyway, so it's a kind of a repetition. In Astika schools of philosophy, this Nyayikas Vaisheshika, Nyaya Vaisheshika system is they are hardcore realism. They believe the external world is there, irrespective of whether you know its existence or not. So a hardcore, basically realism. There is a real external world and there is a real knower. So it's already pluralism anyway. It's a Dvaitavadi, but they are hardcore realism. And then we have an idealism slowly with a different varieties in Vedanta. One group of Advaitins also believe now that there is a Drashti Shrishti Vadaha. So, Drashti Shrishti Vadaha means Drashti of a Jiva. So far, the Jiva who knows a particular thing, and therefore basically that Srishti is there. So this creation, and there is another one also, there is Eka Jiva Vada also is there, which has been discussed in Brahma Sutra somewhere. So we have fortunately studied in Panchadashi that there are two types of Srishti. Vidyaranya has told very nicely, clearly, Ishvara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. And external world made up of these five elements is Ishvara Srishti. And also time, space, objects, everything is a Ishvara Srishti. My body, mind, sense complex is Ishvara Srishti. And Jiva Srishti means my likes and dislikes and pleasure and pain, etc. Basically is a Jiva Srishti. But in Vedanta, from Nayayika Vaisheshikas were hardcore realism. But when you enter into the Vedanta, this is another Astika school. Well, there you find basically a idealism develops. When we don't, in fact, Vedanta, we don't believe the external world is real. We don't believe. We don't say it is not there. But unlike Nayayika and Vaisheshikas, we don't say that, that there is a real world. There is a world which is available for experience, but it is unreal, etc. So idealism has entered in our philosophy, and there are varieties, Vishishta Advaitins and Dvaita Advaitins, etc. and Vallabhacharya, etc. Shuddha Advaitin, all. Well, this idealism is there in different degrees. And then history repeated itself. All these were there in ancient time. And afterwards it started in Buddhism also. And the Buddhism tradition also have now this kind of a system. Well, who says that external world is not there, etc. So sometime, since the history repeats itself, sometime these Advaitins have been taken as a Vijnanavadi also, Kshanika Vijnani also like that. And that is how they say, especially in Mandukya, they always blame either Shankaracharya or Gaudapadacharya as a Prachanna Bauddha. Prachanna Bauddha means, basically there is no difference between a Buddhist and this Advaitins. Advaitins also say there is no real creation. There is no creation. Ajatavada. There is no creation. And Buddhists also say there is no external creation. So it's an idealistic view. It's not a realistic view. And therefore, sometime, since the history is repeated, and so basically ours also Nayayika philosophy realistic people. But if you go further and come to the Vedanta, etc., there is idealism where we don't accept external creation, real creation, etc. And then there is a different degree in Vishishta Advaitin, etc. But ultimately, So there also it happened. In Bauddhas also, this Sautrantika and Vaibhashika are realistic people. They say there is external creation, but this Yogachara and Madhyamikas, they later developed, they say there is no real creation, there is idealism. So same thing, history repeated itself anyway. But one thing I would like to tell you, like in Astika, I will give a comparison. In Astika systems of philosophy, well, in all systems of philosophy, basically one thing is common, including Jainism and in Astika systems of philosophy, one thing is common, and that is there, of course, in even Nastika systems of philosophy, and that is law of karma. Except Charvakas, everyone believes in a law of karma. Law of karma, Jains also believe, Buddhists also believe, and all our systems, 6 systems, Astika system definitely believes, because they are Vedic systems, and therefore they believe in law of karma. So the law of karma has been accepted, even though we have a lot of differences with other systems of philosophy, but this law of karma is accepted by all. Now, in Buddhist school of philosophy also, these 4 schools, well, one principle they have accepted, and 2 principles they have accepted. One is of Vijnanavada, Kshanika Vijnanam has been accepted, and which is common, of course, in all. And the second one is they call Pratitya Samutpadavada. I will explain you that. Pratitya Samutpadavada also has been accepted by all Buddhist schools, 4 schools, and that is a theory of a dependent origination. What is that? Is, they say this. Suppose this is a object. This object is born from its cause. So it is born then it is there. At first, let's take it that way. There are 3 moments, because there is momentary consciousness. So basically, at a first moment, a given object is born from its cause, whatever may be the cause. At a given moment, first moment, a object is born from its cause, then it sustained for a second moment, and third moment it resolves. But it will itself emerge into another effect. So basically, every object in the creation will be there for 3 moments. And so that way every object will have a causality also. Every object is an effect from its cause, and it itself becomes a cause for a next effect. So they call it as a theory of a dependent origination. So X is dependent on Y for its origination, Y is dependent on A for its origination, A is dependent on B for its origination. Could you follow that? So that is how the whole creation is basically a momentary. This thing has been accepted by all Buddhist school of philosophy. Whether it is a Shunyavadi or anybody, but they accept this, like our law of karma has been accepted by even Jainism, Buddhism and other schools of philosophy. This particular principle has been accepted by all Buddhist school of philosophy. So this is what it is, or else you can call Kshanika Vijnanam. So this has been accepted by all. So they have some differences, Kshanika, this Vijnanavada and this Pratitya Samutpadavada, whatever it may be, but they accept this much, that every object exists for 3 moments. One is a moment for its origination, one moment for its existence will be there for 1 moment, and then, well, in a third moment it becomes a cause for something else, and so next moment it disappears. So one moment for origination, 1 moment for existence, and 1 moment in the third moment it goes away. Goes away means it will transform into some effect. It becomes a cause for that. So anyway, this is, by the way, regarding Buddhism. Now if you look at, now let's come to our 6 systems of philosophy. If you look at this Upanishad, if you look at the Veda, basically Veda has 4 portions. One is a mantra or smita, second is a Brahmana, third is Aranyaka, and fourth is Upanishad. Then the highest philosophical teachings is there in the Upanishad, which becomes a source of all the six systems of philosophy. So if you look at carefully the Upanishad, we find this, four distinct philosophical positions. First, then there is a one extreme where you find a certain text in the Upanishad itself. You find a certain text, certain portion, which talks about or which supports Dvaitam, supports Bheda. And what is that portion? All Srishti Vakyas. Whatever the portion discussing the creation, that is the portion supports Dvaitam. So Dvaitavadins, Vedic systems, Dvaitavadins take the support of the Upanishad, Veda, Upanishad, but this particular portion to basically to talk about Dvaitam. They find it convenient, that portion, to take it as a source for their own philosophy. Even though we, of course, say that effect is non-separate from the cause, etc., etc., that is for some other purpose we do this kind of an argument, but they take Srishti Vakyas as a Bheda Vakyas for Dvaita Vakyas, and so everyone, it appears that everyone interprets Veda or Upanishad, basically, to be precise with, in its own ways. And so all darshanas have interpreted differently. And I am right now talking about the first system. We talk about this, who talks about this Bheda. So there are texts in the Upanishad supports Bhedavada. Then there are texts in the Upanishad which supports Abheda. And that's another extreme. One extreme, is they take this Srishti Vakya and says, ultimately Veda supports Bhedavada. Other extreme, they take a text or a portion from the Upanishad which supports Abhedavada. Like all Mahavakya, simple. All Mahavakya supports Abheda between Jiva and Brahman. So, one supports Bheda, other supports Abheda. And so different systems have got different interpretation from different texts, different portions. So Madhvacharya, definitely who talks about Dvaita Vedanta, they're all Vedantin, by the way, because they take the support of the Upanishads, Vedanta. Understand, we think Vedanta means, we only are Vedanta. No. Vishishta Advaitin also, they are Vedantins. Madhvacharya also is a Vedantins. And Vallabhacharya also are Vedantins. And we are also Vedantins. Yeah, please understand that. Vedanta means basically who takes the support of a Vedanta, Upanishads. But they take a certain portion, Srishti Vakyas, and they say, see, Veda only is been support, what we say regarding Veda, that has been supported by the Vedanta called Upanishad. Anyway, so Madhvacharya takes this kind of a support and he establishes Dvaitavada. So extreme radical view. Madhvacharya says there is Dvaitam only. There is no way, there is no iota of Advaita. A radical view of pluralism, we call them. And they say 5 types of Bheda. That's how they say there is a word in the creation there are 5 types of Bheda. Pancha Bhedas are there. And that is how this world is called Prapancha. Imagine. You will get so much of joy. So, this world is Prapancha because there are 5 types of Bheda there. Pancha Bhedas are there. What are the Pancha Bhedas? Who is talking like this? Madhvacharya. He says, look, the Ishvara who has created the world and created Jiva also. Definitely Jiva Ishvara Bheda is there. Jagat and Ishvara also. Definitely Bheda is there because Ishvara is a creator and world is created. Ishvara is a creator, Jiva is created, and therefore definitely Bheda. And therefore Jiva Bheda, Jiva Jagat Bheda, Jiva Ishvara Bheda, Jagat Ishwar Veda, and in Jagat also there are all this Jiva, Chetana Chetan Veda, right? In Jagat also Chetana Chetan Veda is there. So all 5 types of Vedas are there. Pancha Vedas are there in this creation, and therefore Jagat is called Prapancha. We say Prapancha because of a different reason. You know very well. Prakrushta Pancha, right? Everything is ultimately Pancha, 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 and therefore Prapancha. Prakrushta Pancha. There is a predominance of Pancha. And you know, Pancha Mahabhutas, right? So, this is how it is. So, they say no. Prapancha, a word has come because there are Pancha Vedas. Everywhere you find this, Vedas, Veda. Either of that, either of this. Jiva Veda will be there. Jagat Veda will be there. Ishwar Veda will be there. So many. I told you. All the 5 types of Vedas are there. So, this Madhvacharya's Dvaitavada is called radical pluralism. No way there is there is a non-duality possible. Radical pluralism. Anyway, this is from the source book is what? Upanishad. There are Srushti Vakyas. Ishvara is a creator, world is created, Jiva is created, all different. So Upanishad talks about Dvaitavada. One view, extreme. And then like we go to another extreme. We say no. Upanishad talks about, Upanishad Tatparya is a Mahavakya. Jiva Ishwar Aikyam, Abheda. So basically we take Mahavakya, we quote Mahavakya from Upanishad and says Abheda is a Tatparya of a Upanishad. Ho gaya? At least 2 systems you have got now. Bheda and Abheda. The third one will come with a bell. Bheda. That will come later. They will come. They are champions. They are very powerful people in southern India right now. All Namam. Very dangerous. We'll see that. So this is the second view based on this Mahavakya. Only Abheda is there. Advaita. And Advaita means Advaita. No qualification. Advaita and qualification, how can it be? Shuddha Advaita, Keval Advaita, Vishishta Advaita. What is this? Advaita is Advaita. There is no second thing. Then where is the question of to find a difference between two? Like Pujya Swami used to tell, when you say Nirvikalpa, then what is the difference between one Nirvikalpa and another Nirvikalpa? Vikalpa. So, when you put an adjective, why do you put an adjective? To distinguish from the other. But so Advaita means that there is nothing other than that. Then where is the question of Vishishta Advaita, Shuddha Advaita, Keval Advaita? So basically Advaita is Advaita. It doesn't require any kind of a qualification. If qualification is there, that's what we are going to tell them. If you say qualification, better drop. Better drop to call yourself as Advaita. Advaita means there is Ekam eva Advitiyam is Advaita. Ekam eva Advitiyam. There is one thing alone. One without second. Then where is the question of qualifying? Where is the question of qualifying? When you say green, right? Clip green. Means why do you say green clip? Oh, Swamiji, there is a yellow clip also. Definitely. If there is another clip, to distinguish this clip from this clip, you have to put adjective. Adjective or qualification is always to distinguish one thing from the other. And therefore, if one thing from other is there, then definitely Advaita is gone. Ekameva Advitiyam. And therefore Advaitam means Kevalam, not Kevala Advaitam. Kevala Advaitam. But then you are saying Swamiji Kevala Advaitam. No, I am not saying. Other acharyas have given this a title to us, Kevala Advaitam, for some reason. Anyway, so Advaita of a Shankara is a Kevala Advaitam. They say like that. Advaita of a Shankara. What their language they have. such a great Acharya, calling by just name itself is a distaste in our mouth. Acharya is a Bhagavad Pada. Right? He is as good as Lord and Shankaram Shankaracharyam, right? And these people say Shankara as if he is his friend, right? Like Devadatta and like that. Yeah. Anyway, this doesn't suit our culture. Anyway, so Advaita is not a Kevala Advaita. Advaitam is Kevalam. Ekameva Advitiyam, etc. Free from threefold divisions. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata Beda Rahita. And so, well, in world, because objects reveal three types of differences. So, difference between an object of a same species or a class. So then, like two trees, have some differences. One is bigger, smaller, these, that, etc. Two coconut trees, you can find some difference. So there's such one type of differences exist in the world between the object of the same class or have some differences. Then, well, basically, difference between object of a different class, like stone and tree. We have seen all this. Vrukshasya swagato vedaha, vrukshasya sajatiya vedaha, etc., etc. We have seen that. And Shiladibihi, etc. In the second chapter of Panchadashi, we have seen. Anyway, so there is a difference between, object of a one class and another class, naturally. Of one species and other species. That Vijatiya Veda. And then there is a difference, internal difference in a given tree, well, in terms of trunk and foliage and fruits and flowers and root and etc. So anyway, from one perspective, of course, tree is one, but from other perspective, tree is many, right? Many limbs, etc. So some philosophers say that tree is one many. Tree is one many. Anyway, but so this is a Swagata Veda. Even in a piece of chalk, suppose you will find a Swagata Veda in terms of its Dravya will be there, many particles will be there, and Dravya Guna Bheda also will be there. Many gunas will be there in chalk, right? And so all this, it has its own configuration, etc. Swagata Veda will be there, even though it's a one piece of chalk. I mean, on board you write, right, with a chalk stick. I'm talking about that. So several Vedas will be there, several particles are there, etc. Anyway, Brahman is free from all the three Vedas. So there is nothing like Brahman, there is nothing unlike Brahman, etc. Because there is nothing other than Brahman. And so that is how we call Brahman as a Ekarasan, homogeneous. Prajnana Ganaha, right? Prajnana Ganaha means there is a mass of consciousness. There is nothing other than consciousness. That's all. There is nothing other than consciousness. Well, that's all. So therefore, there is Advaita who talks about this Brahman one without the second. In that there is no qualification required, Kevala Advaitam and this Dvaitam, etc. But Vallabhacharya ji says ours is a Shuddha Advaitam. Why you are making a distinction? Keep Advaita. Why do you say this Shuddha Advaitam? No. This Kevala Advaita is basically talk about Maya. Maya is Ashuddha. They say all the time Maya is associated with this Brahman. Maya is Ashuddhi. And therefore, we want to distinguish ourselves from this Kevala Advaita. They are Ashuddha. They talk about Maya. Shankara is a Mayavadi. And therefore, our Advaitam, well, is free from the concept of this Maya. So, Shuddha Advaitam. And these people, Kevala Advaitins are Ashuddha Advaitins. Anyway, and therefore, it's a real joy for you for 4 few days now. Anyway, so this is a second position. Advaitin, based on Upanishad, Mahavakya. Dvaitin, based on Srushti Vakya. We call them Avantar Vakya and Mahavakya. No, they don't call, Don't say them. This is Avantar Vakya. Ours is a Mahavakya. Don't say. They will be furious. They say Upanishad. Upanishad is everything. Srushti Vakya is supposed, out of 1,000 Upanishads, if one Upanishad talks about Srushti, then we will not consider it as a purport. But there is a Samanvaya, so far as even Srushti is also concerned. Suppose they say like that. Many, Brihadaranyaka talks about Srushti, and then Chandogya talks about a Srushti, and then Aitareya talks about a Srushti. Mundaka also talks about Srishti. All Upanishad talks about Srishti. And therefore, that is Avantar and this is Mahavakya, and who has made you this? Now Vedantis, they will take us on left and right. They say everything, whole thing is Veda. One source, not Avantar and Gauna and then Mahavakya, etc. This is a subsidiary, ancillary. No. So we say Vedanta establishes Dvaitam. We means this Madhvacharya. And Shankaracharya says, no, the purport is Dvaitam. That purport has been determined by Brahma Sutra also, you write. Tattu Samanvaya. My God, this was Samanvaya. Samanvaya means there is a consistency regarding the subject matter of the Upanishad is Advaitam. And then this Tatparya, for that we have to understand the Tatparya of the Upanishad. And for Tatparya we know what is to be done, right? Upakrama upasamharo abhyaso apurvata phalam arthavado upapattisya lingam tatparya nirnaya. So ascertain the purport of the Upanishad through 6 lingas. Then you will understand Advaita alone is a purport. And and so far as Advaita is concerned, there is a consistency among all the Upanishads. That's how Vyasacharya ji made a sutra called Tattu Samanvayaha, 4th sutra. Anyway, but these people, so two are already in 6 schools of philosophy, systems of philosophy based on Veda, Astika. Well, one takes Srishti Vakya and says Dvaitam, other says Advaitam. Then the third, Madhyam Margi. Yeah, third position is intermediate. Well, Veda and Abheda, both. Veda, Bhedavada. Dvaita, Dvaitavada. They say there is some truth in Veda, Dvaitam, and there is some truth in Advaitam. And therefore, we'll take both. So, before Shankaracharya ji came, there was a great Vedantin called Bhartru Prapancha. And his works are not available to us now. But all we know about this Bhartru Prapancha, through Shankaracharya ji's refutation of his Dvaita Dvaitavada in Brihadaranyaka Bhashyam. And Sureshwaracharya ji went on. After Bhashyakara, Sureshwaracharya ji, who wrote a Vartikam on Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, definitely further elaborate arguments he did against this Bhartru Prapancha. That is how we come to know about this Vedavada. His works are not available. What happened is one person, very, very popular in our Vedantic circle, is a M. Hiriyanna, who was a great Vedantin. And what he did is, he translated this Vartikam into English. I think he was a Japanese, Hiriyanna. Now I think he is no more. And Pujya Swamiji also used to quote him several times. And he has translated all Sureshwara's Vartikam into English. It's a great work. And so what he did is, he from the Bhashyam of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Vartikam of the Sureshwaracharya on Brihadaranyaka Upanishad combined together has basically constructed this Bhartru Prapancha theory, and thereby we came to know that he was a Vedavadi. Very great work he has done. Pujya Swamiji also used to admire him, and was Japanese. I think he was Japanese. Hiriyanna, M. Hiriyanna. His books are also available, and he has written a very nice book, Outlines of Indian Philosophy. There's another book. Other than this Vartikam, translation of Vartikam, etc., this is another book which was also very popular, Outlines of Indian Philosophy by M. Hiriyanna. Anyway, so this, this Vedavada of Bhartru Prapancha, and subsequently in his tradition, of course, then Shankaracharya ji came and he refuted Bhartru Prapancha. After Shankaracharya ji, one Bhaskaracharya ji came. and then Yadav Prakasha. Like our tradition, they also have a tradition. This Dvaitavadins also had a tradition. Bhartru Prapancha, and then later this Bhaskaracharya, and then Yadav Prakasha, and all that. And ultimately it has come down to the current Veda Vedavada after a lot of certain modifications, and that we call as a Vishishtadvaitavada. For Vishishtadvaitavadi will not accept. He says, I am different from, I will talk about it. Vishishtadvaitavadi says, well, I am different from Veda Vedavadi, but we Advaitins take them as Veda Vedavadi only. And I have given you the example of, if you remember Amsha-Amshi example, if you remember part-whole example, I have given you example of a country and a state and a country and like that. There is a Veda also, and there is a Veda also. Of course, their popular example is a little different. But anyway, they're different. They give an example of a wave and ocean. All the time they bring this. Ocean is one. Okay. But if you look at it in a wave, it is many. Right? Does wave is different from ocean? No. So Abheda. Okay. If wave and ocean are really not different, then why are you calling it as a wave? We call it as a wave and ripple and foam and everything. You should not call. Ultimately, wave and ocean are one thing alone. No. Wave and ocean are not one thing also. So there is a Veda also. And wave is non-separate from the ocean. Abheda also. Could you follow? State is a country. Country is not a state. Country is not a state. Definitely not. Yeah. Whenever you go to India, you may go to the one particular state. Go to Tamil Nadu or Gujarat or what. So you say, I am going to India. So as if the state is a country. As you are saying like that. But at the same time, well then okay, country's population is a state population. Is the same? No. The geography of a country is different than the geography of a state. So many differences are there. Well, the national language of our country is a Hindi or something. Well, it's not Gujarati. So, well, it's country and state are not same also. Then okay, then country and state are independent. They are not independent also. They are not totally different also. That's how it is. Veda Vedavada. That's a beautiful concept. And Vishishtadvaitin, they are not accepting, but we tell that Bhartru Prapancha descendants in the tradition, now in the current, this Veda Vedavada exists in the form of a Vishishtadvaitin. Well, anyway, so definitely this is, so Veda, Abheda and Veda Veda. Now in tradition of Ramanuja, of course, well, it is, they say, we have identified one position called Veda. We know the other position called Veda. And Bhartru Prapancha's Veda Vedavada also is there. But we accept partially. We basically are the fourth one. We are a Vishishta Advaitin. Well, and our Advaitam is little different from this Veda Vedavadis. Our Advaitam is qualified. Vishishta Advaitam. Our Advaita is Vishishta, qualified. Qualified means what? So they say, this Brahman is one. That's true. Brahman is one. But Brahman is qualified. Qualified by Ananta Kalyana Guna. So, well, Brahman is qualified by limitless, auspicious attributes. Brahman is Saguna. There is nothing called Nirgunam Brahma. It's just a pure, it's an imagination of this Advaitins, Kevala Advaitins, that there is a Nirgunam Brahma, and that is the reality. That's not correct. Brahman is Saguna. And these gunas mean Vishesha. So Brahman is Vishishta. There is one Brahman, Advaitam, but Vishishta. Of course, Advaiti refuses to qualify Advaitam called Vishishta Advaitam, etc. There was no qualification possible. But Ramanuja says we talk about Vishishta Advaitam, and Vishishta, of course, not just in terms of the gunas, etc., auspicious attributes. Vishishta in terms of is in more than one sense they are talking. But we are not going into that detail. And this Ramanujacharya, who has proposed this Vishishtadvaita, well, he did not write any commentary on Upanishads. There are no Bhashyam. But he wrote a commentary on Brahma Sutra, and that is called Sri Bhashyam. Very popular. And so we believe that this Ramanujacharya ji he did not, he's not a proponent of this Veda Veda. There must have been before, and that I have told you, Bhartur Prapancha and Bhaskaracharya and Yadav Prakash and all that. Various, like our Advaitin. They say Shankara's Kevala Advaita. What is this? What Yagnavalkya talked, what Uddalaka talked to Shvetaketu, it was what? Anyway, so Advaitam also is there from the Vedic times. And same way, this Dvaita Advaitam also is there from Vedic times. Of course, Ramanujacharya ji became a popular because he wrote a commentary on Brahma Sutra. And there, while discussing, writing a commentary on Brahma Sutra and interpreting it in a form of a Vishishtadvaitam, he took a certain portions of the Upanishad and brought here in Brahma Sutra for discussion. So separately, he did not write any commentary on Upanishads called Bhashyam, etc. That is not there. But he wrote this kind of a thing. And he also wrote a certain Prakarana Granthas like our Acharya. One of the important Prakarana Grantha he wrote is a Vedartha Sangraha. Well, this is a Sangraha of a meaning of the entire Veda. So, that also is written. So, anyway, so this is it regarding a Ramanujacharya, basically. And he says, well, when we ask what is your position, this Vishishtadvaitin says, well, I hold basically a Veda theory also. I hold a Veda theory, I believe in Veda theory also, but still my position is entirely different. And our Advaitam is Vishishtam. Advaitam means Brahman. That Brahman, even though it is one, but it is qualified. We'll see that later, it will come perhaps. So Advaitian says, well, this is, these four things are there, and you can now see the whole system, 6 systems of philosophy like this. I think I will stop here, and we'll see further day after tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.